Welcome to As I Live and Grieve, a podcast that tells the truth about how hard this is. We're glad you joined us today. We know how hard it is to lose someone you love and how well-intentioned friends and family try so hard to comfort us. We created this podcast to provide you with comfort, knowledge, and support. We are grief advocates, not professionals, not licensed therapists. We are you.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back again to As I Live and Grieve. We have a returning guest today, one of my very, very favorites, and I know y'all can't see her smile, but truly, her smile is priceless. It really, really is. So with us today, again, is Elyse Falzone, and she's going to talk to us more about healing crystals, today specifically about which crystals might aid or relieve some symptoms that you're experiencing on your grief journey. So welcome back, Elyse.
Thank you so much, Kathy. It's so wonderful to be here again and receive the gift of your smile, too.
Thank you so much. Before we get started on our topic, would you just kind of refresh for our listeners a little bit of your background?
Yeah, absolutely. Grew up as a gymnast and dancer, always been very connected to my body. I've had a ton of health issues growing up, which catapulted me into the realm of healing and really digging into the power of healing ourselves. And have always kind of had that sixth sense and that intuition, and through my own trials and tribulations have really landed in a space to be of service, specifically to women. I typically cater to women, but all are welcome. And in that space, really just providing a container for people to heal, to grieve, to move through sacred rage, to get to know who they are and get to know their intuition and really develop these beautiful spiritual gifts that we are all born with and destined to give and offer to the planet.
Well, that's great. And I'm so delighted to have you back again. And this topic, we wanted to kind of get into the specifics. And I always try to be very careful. I never want to say, we're going to talk about crystals to heal grief, because that's not the way it works. The crystals are going to perhaps help relieve some of the symptoms, maybe help you get in a little better space emotionally, mentally, and physically so that you can heal from grief. You yourself are the ones, really, you're the ones that are going to heal yourself from grief. But there are some crystals that will definitely help you along the way. So what would the first one be, Elyse, that you would recommend?
One of the first crystals that I love to work with, I've experienced a lot of grief, and even this year I've had a pretty grief-stricken year. Rose quartz. Rose quartz is a really beautiful stone. It is a stone that is pretty common, even if you are not someone who is a crystal connoisseur. You may have heard of rose quartz. It's a pretty common one. It might be in stores or people's houses that you walk into. It is a very common crystal. It's a very light pink. Sometimes it can be a darker pink, but typically a light pink crystal. And rose quartz, I would say specifically, would be for those of you who may be grieving a loved one. Rose quartz represents love in all its forms. Relationship love, self-love. There's just this pouring out, like a waterfall of love that comes from the energy and frequency of a rose quartz. So for those of you, like I said, who are grieving a loved one and really moving through the pain of that and wanting to feel that love, rose quartz, holding it to your chest, holding the stones in your hands, that heart space is such a precious and tender space during grief. You could even, if you wanted to buy a bigger chunk of rose quartz, you could place that rose quartz somewhere in your bedroom if it was a spouse, possibly, in the living room or playroom if it was a child or someone else in your family that was close to you in that way.
I have a piece of rose quartz, and I just love the color of it.
Mm.
The color itself kind of makes me just feel better. And it's been interesting to me. I'm kind of new to the whole arena of crystals for healing and everything. But I'll have to quote my own daughter, Stephanie, who just said, but they're just so pretty. And they are pretty. Now, does the size of the stone matter a lot?
It is such a great question. You could say yes and you could say no. The reality is, the bigger the stone, it's going to put out a bigger auric field. So each of us has, we have this emanating energy that some people have the ability to see, but, we have this emanating energy from our bodies. And so if you have a smaller stone, that emanating energy is going to be smaller. If you have a larger stone, that emanating energy is going to be larger. So good, bad, or otherwise, small stones are great. I mean, for probably a good 5 years, I just had really small tumbled stones that I could hold in my hand, the smooth stones that you can go into a metaphysical or crystal shop and pick up for $1 to $8 a piece, and they're real simple. But as my love and my teaching now of crystals has grown, the bigger the crystals I get. And so, I would say just don't be hard on yourself. If the small stones is what you're working with, they will work 100%.
All right, and I say that because I kind of wanted to bring up the issue of money. So many treatments that are out there, so many modalities get very, very expensive, and that can get very exhausting for people as well, thinking, oh my gosh, I have to spend more and more money. But there are a lot of small stones. The big advantage to the small stones for me is, like you said, you can carry them with you.
Yep.
You can have them in your wallet, you can put them in your pocket. You can have them made into, or you can purchase a bracelet or a necklace with smaller stones and have those and that energy that they exude. You can have that with you constantly. A larger stone you're not going to carry around.
Exactly.
So it does have bigger energy, but chances are it's going to be in a different environment. So it needs that bigger energy. Yeah, you can go to a gem show, you can go to a gem shop or something, and really for just a little bit of money, you can get yourself enough stones to just kind of get started if
Absolutely.
you want to try it out. Okay. Other than the rose quartz now, what would your next suggestion be?
And there's a stone called rhodonite. Kind of a funny name. It has a mixture of black and kind of like a mauve pink. And sometimes, it depends on where it's mined and how it's mined and if it's polished or if it's rough and all of that stuff. It may be more of the mauve pink, or you may have more black. The one that Cassie is looking at right now as we speak has more black on it, but rhodonite is a heart stone. So while rose quartz is one that represents love, rhodonite really is heart healing. So as we know, when we are grieving, sometimes we feel that heart ache. We feel that heart hurting. And so I would say rhodonite is a beautiful stone to... The visual that I'm getting right now is like blowing air into the heart, like filling our heart up with something more than just grief, giving ourselves a heart pick-me-up, so to speak. That's how I would personally use the rhodonite. And again, you can hold it, you can put it on a chain or a bracelet, like you just said. There's a lot of different ways that you can use it, but that heartache, the rhodonite is going to help you to remain open in your heart, because we can close down, and opening that heart with that safe comfort of the energy of the rhodonite is really precious.
And what happens if you combine stones? What happens if in your hand you're holding a piece of rose quartz and a piece of rhodonite?
Yeah, that's really beautiful. If it feels good, do it. If it feels off, don't do it. This is a place to truly trust your intuition. For you, Kathy, those two may go really well together, but I may not be feeling like those are going well together for me. We all have our own energy makeup and our own stories. And so if it feels good, absolutely do it. They love to be buddies. They love to pair up and work together. But I think, the other day I have two like bigger crystals, and I was trying to put them together on one like vanity over here, and it was like opposing energy, and I'm very sensitive to that, so you may or may not feel that, but I could feel like the opposing energy, and I was like, okay, I'll put them on separate sides of the room. They did not want to work together. But if it feels harmonious for you and it feels comforting, please work with them together.
Yeah. Now, I admit I'm not to the stage where I don't know that I could really tell that they're working together or not. But what I can tell is by looking at them, just that sense of looking at them, whether or not I like the look. So I
Yeah,
have to kind of go with that and let that for right now be my guide to whether they're working or not. If they don't make me happy, then they're probably not working in
exactly.
my naive mind. But yeah, so all right, another stone. Now, I have heard of the name, and I actually have two of them. And perhaps it's because of the history, the story behind them, that these are very special to me. And these are, of course, the Apache tear.
Mhm.
How about those?
Oh, it's a powerful stone. You can just feel the history and reverence, and yeah, it feels like living history when I hold an Apache tear. They're a very powerful stone. The story, as you alluded to, it's an American Indian tribe that were pinned up against, their opponents in battle, and instead of dying in battle, they decided to be, I guess, more heroic and jump off the cliffs instead of being killed. So they took their own lives, they jumped off the cliffs, and the story is that the women and the children cried and cried and cried and cried, and that those tears became stones. And so it truly is a stone for grief. It truly is a stone to connect to the greater story of grief. A stone, and I'm like, have full body chills just talking about it. A stone that really pulls you into prayer, into meditation. A stone that allows space for you to reflect, to honor. I don't, so there's not even really words to me
Right,
for Apache
right.
tears, but they're very powerful stones.
Yeah, yeah. For me, and I know you've probably felt this too, and I'll bet every single one of our listeners has felt that, gosh, you just really need to cry. You've got so much emotion built up in you. You need to release it, and the best way to release it is cry. But sometimes you just can't quite make yourself cry. It's not always that easy. Well, I have a favorite contemporary poet that I've recently discovered, John Rodell. He was a guest on our podcast. He has written some beautiful, beautiful poetry about grief. And I will take his book, and I will take the Apache tear that I have, and I will sit and I will read. And every single time, it will bring me to tears and give me exactly that release I need. That, for me, is my personal story of Apache tears.
That is so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I'm so grateful to have heard that. I love that.
They're not necessarily in the category of what I would call pretty stones, but they have so much history in them. And to just kind of partner myself, if you will, with the grief that those indigenous people have felt is just overwhelming. And every time I need that release, that's my go to.
It is overwhelming. That's a really, really good word for it. And yeah, it's like, it kind of looks like lava rock, you know? Um, but when you hold them, you will feel it. I don't care if it's your first time with crystals or your millionth time with crystals, you will feel the power and the presence of the elders and the ancestors, and just so much support. Wow. Yeah. So cool.
Yeah, and just in the category of expense again, the two stones I have both fit in the palm of my hand. They're not huge. They were each less than $10. They were not that expensive. You can spend hundreds of dollars looking for other treatments, and here are these very two genuine stones that, some people probably wouldn't even pick up because they're not pretty crystals. But boy, they hold so much power in them. They really do. What else have you got?
Well, I got some others. Let's go with moonstone. Moonstone is a really beautiful stone, especially for mothers or for women who may have gone through hysterectomies. It's really that sacral energy of womb, feminine power, feminine energy. There's two types of moonstones. There's a regular moonstone, which is kind of pearly looking almost. It's this kind of like peachy, pearly color. And then there's a black moonstone. Both are beautiful. Both are equally powerful. Just notice what you're more called to. I would say typically in stores, you're going to find the regular moonstone. Black moonstone is a little bit more like uncommon, but they're a very soothing stone. They're a very feminine stone. It's a stone of comfort, of nurturing. When you want to feel that mother energy, this is a beautiful stone to work with as well. I want to think if there's anything else about moonstone. This stone, I would say, is also a stone that can help open that emotional flow. That water energy is present in the moonstone, right? The moon moves the ocean. So we've got that emotional pull happening with the energy of the moonstone.
Nice, nice. I don't have any moonstone, but it's on my list. I have a pretty long list of crystals I want. Now, there's one, I think, lepidolite, that always comes to mind. Is that on your list
It's
of
on my list right here. Lepidolite. It's a purple and white stone. Again, it can be more purple or more white depending on where it's at. I personally love my palm stones, which I think we talked about in the first episode that we recorded, that the palm stones are those smooth, kind of egg-like stone, like river stone sort of shape that can just fit right in your hands. I really recommend getting a lepidolite that can go in each hand, no matter how small or how big. You decide, but having them balanced in both hands, I think, is a really beautiful way to balance your nervous system. But also, lepidolite helps to soothe ancient. I can't say it. Helps to soothe anxious energy. So that jittery, like what's happening, the discomfort, like not being able to hold still. There is a natural deriving chemical that comes out of this stone, which is lithium, which is in a lot of the anxiety medications. So you can naturally receive it. Obviously, you're not eating it or ingesting it, but you are receiving that energy imprint of the lithium. I love lepidolite. Lepidolite is such a beautiful stone for so many different reasons, especially with grief when we just can't sit still.
Yeah, and that feeling of anxiety and panic are almost the same to me.
Yes.
Because it's that real jittery feeling that you just, and sometimes it's just that, what else is going to happen? You're waiting for that other shoe to drop, and the lepidolite will help in that, correct?
The lepidolite can help that. It can help, when you start to go to sleep and your mind starts to race and you can't get those thoughts or that loop out of your brain. The lepidolite can definitely help with that. It's a beautiful stone for you to sleep with because it can help calm. Maybe you're having to revisit conversations or meet with people that maybe had to do with whatever the traumatic event or experience was. And inside of that, use lepidolite to calm yourself before revisiting those photos or before revisiting the conversations or the traumatic event. You can do it while you're watching TV, while you're reading a book. Even sometimes I've even held it while mixing something up in a bowl for dinner, with the other hand. We actually have a large lepidolite in our bedroom. and in the kids' bedroom, so that it is a calmer, right? Because the bedroom is meant for my kids to sleep, not to play around. And my kids, I got little kids. So it's like, I want to hold that intention. We have a rose quartz chunk and a lepidolite chunk in there. And just knowing that both of them are soothing them for sleep.
Right, right. That's a great idea, in fact. Yeah, I've never thought about holding one in my hands when I cook anything for dinner, but I don't cook as much anymore, so that may be why as well. What about a stone that might help someone who just really wants to connect with the loved one that's gone? Is there anything that might help in that
Angelite.
aspect?
Angelite. It's a beautiful blue robin stone, and it is a beautiful connector to the other side, to the other realms, to your angels, to your guides, for those of you who, tune into that. And if you don't, that's okay. But your loved ones who've crossed over, that angelite will support. Also a clear quartz, just a regular, clear, see-through crystal. That will also help. I have taught my kids, they're so curious about the crystals, which is so fun. But, the clear quartz to them is, they don't usually say clear quartz, they'll say that's the amplifier crystal. And so I call it the amplifier. If you use a clear quartz in conjunction with, in combination with any of the other stones, it really does amplify, because it's that just like direct connection to the heavens. And so it is pure, it is clear, and it is that vessel, so to speak. So that's also just a beautiful, very easy, beautiful, simple stone that you can use, is that clear quartz crystal.
Okay. All right. Okay. And then here's a question that I just thought of as we're talking. So many times we think of women being the ones listening to the podcast, women, trying to find something to deal with their symptoms. Are there any crystals that are more to the masculine side?
Yeah, I would say malachite. Malachite, I don't have it right here with me, or I would show you. And I know the listeners are listening, not viewing, but it's like bringing in the visual. Malachite is a beautiful green, like dark green stone. It's super cool. It's got these cool little like circular nodule shapes and designs inside of it. It's a very cool crystal. You can use it for multiple reasons. Really, lots of crystals have multiple experiences. Where the moonstone was the more feminine stone, the malachite is going to be the more masculine stone. We all have masculine and feminine energy within us. But the malachite, this beautiful green stone, it's a heart stone also, because the color green is our heart chakra. So it is it's a stone of strength. It's a stone of abundance. It's a stone of, they're just saying strength again. Like it's a stone of strength. And so while I would actually recommend moonstone for the men to open their emotions, malachite is a stone that can help them continue to feel stable. And women, we can use malachite too when we're feeling unstable in our grief and that like wobbly foundation. The malachite is going to bring in more structure. It is a very structured stone, an energy stone of structure.
So strength and stabilization,
Yeah.
maybe, sounds like. Good idea. Okay, what am I missing? What else we got?
I like to bring in amethyst. Amethyst is really the kind of last stone that I have on the list. There's plenty more that you can talk about here. But amethyst is another stone that's a pretty common stone that people know. It's a purple stone. Again, you can come in all shapes and sizes, however you like it, tumbled or raw. And the amethyst is a very spiritual stone. It is a stone also that connects you spiritually. So I would say amethyst could be another stone when you just want to connect. You want to, in grief, it's hard sometimes to see the bigger picture. And when you feel stuck in the smallness of the grief, and you just want to breathe and create more space around you and remember that there's life happening around you, amethyst is a really beautiful stone for that. It will help your soul come back into alignment. It will help you remember whatever it is that you believe in, God, universe, whatever that is for you. It can help you come back to the bigger picture.
Nice. And amethyst is probably one of the prettiest stones there are. So many people are probably more familiar with it as a birthstone in a ring or something, but I particularly love it in its raw form. I just find it's like breaking open a geode and having this
Yes.
beautiful, beautiful collection of amethyst there with all its points and everything like that. I just love that. Okay, now very quickly, because as always, we run out of time so fast when you and I
We have
talk,
so much
Elyse.
fun together.
I know it is. It's a great combination. Is there a difference in the shape of the stone that somebody, if they say, okay, I want to go find a piece of rhodonite, or I want to go find an angelite because I want to connect, should they look for a particular shape?
That's a really great question. I would say for grief specifically, heart-shaped stones are really beautiful and really precious. They're going to exude that feeling, that comfort that we're seeking through grief. Um, we probably could do a whole podcast on shapes because there are so many different shapes and there are different meanings. If it's pointed, it's directing energy. If it's rounded like a sphere, it's very harmonious energy. I think what I would encourage is when you go into a shop, and you can certainly order stones online, but I would always recommend go in, touch them, feel them. Just look up your local stores and pick up a few and see which one feels better in your hand. Maybe you want a pointed one that might feel really powerful for you. Maybe you want one that's just like super like amoeba shaped because it just feels fluid. The palm stones are great. Necklaces a lot of times will come with like a little point. Sometimes they'll be hearts or ovals. I would really just say trust your own intuition and your own judgment. What feels good when you're holding it? What feels good when you're in the presence of it?
Okay, so it's not a shape you have to acclimate yourself to. It's whichever one makes you feel better, makes you feel happy, makes you smile when you look at that stone. Um, for our listeners out there, this crystals for me is something very, very new, but it's become very exciting to me. And I will say, and I'm going to put in this little plug, Elyse has a wonderful course, very affordable, and she's given us a great discount for listeners of the podcast that will just take you through from the very beginning to why crystals are even important to us. And it was a connection I never made. Here I'm thinking of all of these, there's all these treatments out there again and all of these solutions, but crystals are part of the earth. They've been there all along, and they're very natural, very organic. So why wouldn't it be worth checking them out? So consider going to her website, looking for her crystals course. It has helped me immensely, and this is a newfound passion for me, and I'm just enjoying it thoroughly. And other people, even when they walk into my room, they say, "Oh, those are pretty." Yeah. If for nothing else, people, you have some beautiful, beautiful pieces that look really nice on your shelves if they do nothing else for you, and very, very affordable. I've got, I think, almost every color in the rainbow now, and I have my favorites. I have ones that make me happy, and I have my go-to ones that I will take off the little display stand and put them in my hand and sit down with them and just, all right, I talk to them. I really do. And I think they talk back to me. So I just had to put that in there. But now, Elyse, I'm going to turn the microphone over to you so that you can tell our listeners what you can offer them in the way of services, resources, etc. So this is your turn.
Thank you so much. Yeah, you can find me on Instagram _awaken your soul. You can message me there if you want, ask questions. I think Kathy and I are in talks of a third episode to be with. And so if you have questions, let's talk about it. My website, ElyseFalzone.com. You can find the crystal course on there and some other beautiful, fun things and, healing sessions and all of that fun stuff. And all the listeners get 50% off of the crystals course, which is super cool. Podcast 50 and is the code at checkout. I don't know. There's so many beautiful things. We've got live events and retreats and all kinds of beautiful things, depending on how much you want to just dip your toe or take a full dive into this realm with me. I'm here for you.
Thank you. And as always, that information will be in our episode notes. The podcast 50, you can't pass this up. To get 50% off anything these days is amazing. But the course is really good because you can do it at your own pace. It's all pre-recorded. You can do it at your own pace. It's just you and the video learning from it. And she always invites you to ask questions. She does respond. She does answer them too. I will say that. And yes, we are indeed planning a third episode because I want you all to hear Elyse's story. And that's going to be the very next time we all chat together. So in the meantime, listeners, it has come to that point where we have to say so long. See ya, hear ya next week. But remember to take care of yourselves. And I am now a true believer in, if you want to consider crystals, consider them. Be careful where you get your information. Start with Elyse's website and go from there. Be careful with any type of treatment modality you decide to pursue. Make sure that you can trust your resource. So with all that, again, reminder for self-care, I will just say we'll catch you next week as we all continue to live and grieve.
Thank you so much for listening with us today. Do you have a topic that you'd like us to cover, or do you have a question from one of our episodes? Please email us at info@asiliveandgrieve.com and let us know. We hope you will find a moment to leave a review, send an email, and share with others. Join us next time as we continue to live and grieve together.